Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today, I am talking about The Devil's Kiss by William W. Johnstone. This was published by Pinnacle Horror way back in 1980. 79, 80. And I guess this is a retro review because this is an out of print book. So, yeah, I guess I'll just get to what it's about. And what it's about is the town of Whitfield in, I believe it's Nebraska. It's under assault by Satan. Under assault by Satan. That was a little difficult to say. Our main character is a preacher named Sam Balin, or Balin, however you pronounce it, Balon. And he's one of the religious leaders of this town of Whitfield, and Satan is amassing his army. Sam is going to have to amass his ragtag group of believers, and there's going to be a huge battle between good and evil. That's the nutshell. So, let's get into this. Do I talk about the book first? Or do I talk about the author first? That's the question. I think I'm going to talk about the author first. So, William W. Johnstone, probably best known as a writer of westerns. Although my viewers might know him most as a writer of horror. But he's got, I'm pretty sure his westerns outnumber his horror 10 to 1, at least. He has passed away, and he's still putting out, seems like 10 books a month. But this was his first published work, according to both Wikipedia and his website. And I didn't super deep dive. I did a quick Google search. I couldn't find out a lot about the man himself, but it seems as though he is very conservative. Between reading this and reading some of his later horror novels, his characters, anyway, really come down on liberals. It's this book, the other books, the Rockabilly Limbo and Rockabilly Hell that I read. Liberals are destroying our country. And rock and roll is destroying the youth. I don't know if these are actually his views or if it's just the characters in all of his books apparently have these views. And the way this is written, or the way the story goes, first of all, there is a lot of graphic sex and violence in here, which seems opposed to a conservative writing graphic sex and violence. Maybe, I don't know. But if you took out the graphic sex and violence, this would read like a Christian piece of fiction. Because it's straight up just the battle between good and evil. Satan is amassing his army. Sam Balin, that's how I'm saying it. That's how I kept saying it in my head when I was reading it. Is fighting on God's side. Now the writing pretty rudimentary. And as I said, this is his first published work, but I've read his westerns, some of his westerns. I've read some of his other horror, and I don't remember there being a big change in his writing style. In this book, it starts with, it takes place in 1958, I believe, yes. And it starts summer of 1958 at the end of the events that you're about to read about. So it has that kind of thing where it starts and then it goes 3 weeks earlier kind of thing. So we have this sort of cold open that's showing us the aftermath. Then we have a prologue, which is essentially a second cold open, which is essentially the opening scene from Jaws. Simply in that there's a couple horny teenagers that are going to end up dead by the end of the prologue. Then we get to chapter 1. And this is where we start meeting our cast of characters. Black Wilder is Satan's agent on Earth. He's thousands of years old. There's basically werewolves. They call them beasts. And there's no transformation, but they seem very lupine. I have an itch in my nose. Pardon me. They seem like people that have been turned into werewolves but don't turn back. And there's vampires, and so we get some setup, and we meet the bad guys, and then we're meeting the good guys, and things move incredibly quickly. Like right off the bat, a bunch of people have become or are already Satanists, but at the same time, there's a lot of repetitiveness. There's a lot of, we'll talk about it later. Oh, I need to talk to you about this. I need to talk to you about this. We'll do it tomorrow. There's a lot of, all right, we're going to have to plan what we're going to do. And then later, okay, let's set up a plan for what we're going to do. But all of that being said, well, I'll tell you, I haven't even gone to Goodreads yet since I finished the book. I just finished it. I'm going to give it 3 stars. I would give it 2.5 because 2 is it was okay. 3 is I liked it. And I kind of fall right in the middle, but you can't give half stars on Goodreads. So I am going to bump it up to 3. I was entertained. I mean, again, plenty of graphic sex and violence. The characters, well, the main character, Sam Balin, is the archetype badass minister archetype figure. He's 6'4", I think, and a couple 100 pounds of muscle. He was in the special forces in Korea. They talk about it wasn't called special forces at the time, but it was basically the thing that became special forces. And he, he starts out just trying to be the good preacher man, but not backing down from anybody. And when we get to the last third, he's Rambo. He's running around with a Thompson submachine gun and wooden stakes and Molotov cocktails, and he's a killing machine, all in the name of God. So yeah, it was entertaining. It's just very, as I said, rudimentary. That's the best word I can think of. Rudimentary prose. But it's never boring, which is very important. And it is the first in a trilogy. I have up there, I can't read them from here because the spines are a little cracked. But there's 2 more devil books, the Devil's Something and the Devil's Something. And then there's a 4th-ish one called The Devil's Cat, but that's part of the Cat trilogy. So there's 3 books that are Cat this, Cat that, The Devil's Cat. So I don't know if the Devil's Cat ties into these Devil's books, or if it's just happens to be the name. Actually, I think on William Johnstone's official website, if you look at his books, I think it has the Devil's books having 4 books and the Cat's only having 2. That's all neither here nor there. This does set up a sequel. I have not pulled them down off the shelf, the other books, to read the back to see how they're going to tie in. Because it jumps the very, very end, the cold ending. I don't know what you actually call those. The epilogue, essentially, jumps like 22 years. So we'll see. All right. Anyway, that's The Devil's Kiss, William W. Johnstone. Do I recommend it? Why not? If you want to read something that's light and fluffy, well, that's really not the way to put it. I'll tell you what. I read this because I had just finished reading the book Awful Awesome Horror Volume 2, which is all about So Bad They're Good movies. And that just put me in the mood to read something pulpy and easy. And that's what I got with this. Graphic sex and violence. A very simple good versus evil story. There are twists and turns. There are surprises. You know what? Now that I think about it, I think I will maybe just give it that straight up. I mean, again, I was going to give it 3 stars, knowing I bumped it up from 2.5, but I think I'm going to give it 3 stars and mean it. I was entertained. Yeah, we're going to go with 3. I'm not going to go crazy and go any higher than that, but I'm going to give it 3. Now, I will have links in the description below, as I usually do, but I think all the copies I saw for sale were relatively expensive. You can even go on his website, and it'll have links to where you can buy these books, but they're up there. I was lucky to find all of the ones that I have at half-price books for a decent price. And he's got plenty of horror that I don't even have. And again, if I could find them at a decent price, I'd pick them up. Yeah, you're not getting anything deep with this. But you'll get something fun and gross and titillating. So yeah, I'd recommend it. 3 out of 5 isn't a horrible score. That's The Devil's Kiss by William W. Johnstone. Yeah, all right. I think that's all I have to say about that. I will be reading the rest eventually. I'm not going to just plow through all of them. I have some other things to read first. But we'll get back to the Devil's story eventually. Question for this video. Do you mind reading something that's basically popcorn? I was going to say the comparison I thought about making, and then I forgot, but now I remembered again, was, you might like going out to an authentic Mexican restaurant when you're going out for Mexican food, but every once in a while, you might want some Taco Bell. This is the Taco Bell of horror. Obviously he was popular enough that he has a ton of horror novels out. But anyway, what do you do you enjoy just reading something pulpy like this? Do you want a little more meat, a little more intellectual stimulation in your reading? Obviously, I enjoy dipping my toe into this well every once in a while. Again, I want to be entertained. If a book gives me more than that, that's great. But as long as I'm entertained, as long as I'm not bored, and I was never bored with this book, then I'm happy. And I think anyone who's watched my Reading Remembrances videos, or a lot of the stuff I've reviewed, I have varied tastes. And I don't mind getting down and dirty with just some really gross, disgusting, but simple horror like The Devil's Kiss. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And then if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K. ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.